Sarah Pochin's here with us. Sarah, very good morning to you.
Morning, Mike. How you doing?
Yeah, very well. Good to see you. Mel Stride says he wants to be one of the grown-ups in the room. He says that the Reform Party have got fantasy economics. I always find it amusing to hear people who have completely wrecked the finances of the country talking about other parties with fantasy economics.
You know, I know. And have you noticed the insults that both the Tories and the Labour Party now are throwing our way, talking about we're creating policies on the back of a fag packet, we're creating policies down the pub. Yeah. I've heard so much of this over the last few days, and yet they are both copying reform policies, so they can't be that bad, can they? And how Mel Stride can sit there, I've just listened to him, and say we're talking fantasy economics when he's suddenly coming out with, oh yes, we're going to cut millions from the waste that is the welfare state and the waste that is, the civil service. Well, that's exactly what Reform are doing with their Doge unit, with Zia Youssef heading that up. And there they are accusing us of back of the fag packet economics.
Yeah, I mean, we've got Kerry Badenoch saying they're going to deport 150,000 people a year. Where have I heard that before?
Well, big wow as well, because let's face it, we've got hundreds and hundreds of thousands coming in. We think that there's well over 1 million people here currently illegally in the UK. We've got all the issues coming up next year from January 2026 with the Boris wave and the indefinite leave to remain. I mean, really, 150,000 a year. Well, good luck with that, Kemi. But one, that's the tip of the iceberg. And again, as I said earlier, suddenly the Tories are going to leave the ECHR. Oh, well, are they? Why did they spend 14 years? Why did they waste 14 years when we could have got on and done that? And also, they're talking about just putting on hold the Human Rights Act as opposed to reform, which is saying we will completely repeal the Human Rights Act. So, I don't think anybody is buying all of this rhetoric. All the Tories are doing at their very poorly attended conference, it looks like a ghost town, the pictures I've seen, are literally spouting out reform policies, as are Labour. And we know why, don't we? Because only reform are speaking to the people, are reflecting the views in the country at the moment of the people. And it doesn't matter what we talk about, Mike. We can talk about the protests and this new clamping down on protests. But the British people suspect, as do I, as I'm sure many of your viewers do, that they will be clamping down on the protests, the pro-Jewish protests, or my veterans that I'm always supporting in Parliament Square that protest regularly. Oh, I bet they'll all be cleared out, but will we see the Palestinian protests cleared out? Well, let's wait and see, Mike.
Well, my worry as well is that they'll because what the language that Shabana Mahmood's using about places where protests go on continually, that sounds to me like migrant hotels, places where people might be caused distress. Well, again, that sounds like migrant hotels, because you can bet your bottom dollar that they would like to stop those protests.
Absolutely. And these protests are fundamentally peaceful, the pink t-shirted mums and, really concerned about the safety of their children. These are peaceful protests. Are they going to stop those protests? Because this is a democratic country. And one of the things I always speak about when I get the chance is that we have to fight for our democracy. And this government, I think, is determined to limit the powers of democracy. There's a big difference between a peaceful protest that has always been the right of people in this country and these violent, insightful protests that we're seeing now from pro-Palestine. There's a big difference. One, in my view, is a criminal offence, these pro-Palestine inciting to violence. The other is a democratic right to peacefully protest.
Exactly. Let's have a look at the wording, actually, that Shabana Mahmood uses. This is from yesterday.
What I will be making explicit is that cumulative disruption, that is to say the frequency of particular protests in particular places, is in and of itself a reason for the police to be able to restrict and place conditions. That is to say they can move them to a different place, they can restrict the time that those protests can occur on. So that will unlock all of the broader measures that the police can already do on protests.
So you can see there's quite a few clues, aren't there, as to where she wants to take this,
Absolutely. This is going to try and hit the people that are wanting to just speak the truth about what's going on in the country. This is going to be aimed at your core decent, hard-working British taxpayer that is just upset about the state of this country. We know where that rhetoric is taking us, don't we? And like I say, I worry for the peaceful right to protest. That is what this country is all about. But we know in other ways they're starting to clamp down on our free speech. They're talking about bringing in the Islamophobia law. We've already had the battle and the debates over the so-called Online Child Safety Act, which does nothing other than, in my view, limit our freedom of speech. So, you know, and then we've got the ID cards coming in, although potentially I think they might be backtracking on those, don't you, as well? But all of these things attempting to control the will of the British people.
Exactly right. Talking about the will of the British people, the will of the British people on my show this morning is to call Gary Neville an absolute plank and a complete moron for what he came out with yesterday. Have a look at this. He's blaming angry middle-aged white men for everything, apparently.
I was driving home from Salford City last night. I was driving actually to Salford City, going down a Littleton Road, seeing 60, probably 50 or 60 Union Jack flags. And I just kept thinking as I was driving home last night that we're all being turned on each other, and the division that's being created is absolutely disgusting. Mainly created by angry, middle-aged white men who know exactly what they're doing.
Yeah. He also says at some point it's all down to Brexit, right? He also says that they never used to fly England flags in the last 10, 15, 20 years. Well, what about all the football matches he played in? Did you not see any England flags flying then when he was in the World Cup? What's wrong with him?
Yeah, I know. And do you know what? I mean, Gary Neville, you know, who's Gary Neville, for goodness sake? Who's really interested in these, you know, these sort of like B-list celebrities that think they're these influencers that come out with all this nonsense? Well, look at the, how was it, 1 million, 2 million people that were marching with their flags in London on the 13th of March. Yeah. You know, and that was such a oh my goodness, that moved me so much watching those pictures. Those are the middle-aged white men that Gary Neville
and women
is referring to.
Yeah, and middle-aged white women as well. And also, there were quite a few people who were not white at that march as well. There were plenty of black people. There were plenty of brown people. You know, it's not about colour, but he and the left always make it about colour, don't they?
They always do. And do you know what? He is doing himself the divisive job that he refers to, that people like myself who proudly fly a flag in my garden and who rejoice when I drive under every motorway bridge now covered in Union Jacks and St George's crosses. Well, bring it on. And you know what, Gary Neville, you know, you've just finished your career because, you know, yeah, look at those pictures, Mike. Oh my gosh. That is what Reform is standing up. We are standing up for all of those people that we can see there on the screen that want to proudly fly the Union Jack. There is only one flag in this country, and it is the Union Jack, and that is the one that Reform will fly on every government and public building. You know, and those are the people we're representing.
And there's an awful lot of them as well, and quite right too. More bad news for Keir Starmer and indeed for Kemi Badenoch. There's a new poll out last night. JLP Partners put out a poll surveying just over 6,000 British adults, asking the question, who do you think would make the better Prime Minister? And in March, believe it or not, the answer to that was Keir Starmer 43%, Nigel Farage 33%. Now they say Nigel Farage 35%, Keir Starmer 34%. So Keir Starmer since March has literally lost 10 points. I mean, I don't know why he hasn't lost more. But the worst news for Kemi Badenoch is that the next choice is don't know. She's not even on it.
Well, look, Kemi Badenoch, bless her, she's irrelevant. And I'm sorry to say that, but the fact is we are the true party of opposition. And Nigel, as we know, will be the next Prime Minister of this country. And let's all rejoice when that happens, because we'll finally have somebody who's putting the British people first. And yeah, Keir Starmer, he just goes from disaster to disaster. And, you know, we all hear it said, don't we, he's the most unpopular Prime Minister that this country's ever had. Well, you know, it's quite incredible how quickly he's managed to fall down the popularity ratings.
It is absolutely amazing. Well, he's going off in search of some people that do like him, because on Tuesday he's going to India.
India.
Yeah, because he promised because he's promised them some tax breaks. I mean, we don't get any tax breaks, but he's promised people coming from India tax breaks so they can come and work in Britain. So I guess he's probably going to get a round of applause when he gets there.
Actually, that's a really important point that you've reminded me of then. I mean, the Labour government talk about these wonderful trade deals that Keir Starmer's doing around the world. That particular deal stops or allows Indian employers not to have to pay national insurance on the Indian employees that they're bringing in. Yeah. What a disgrace. Absolute disgrace. Again, taking jobs away from British people.
Exactly right. Sarah, good to see you. Thanks very much indeed. Sarah Pochin, reporting in, Reform UK MP from Runcorn and Helsby.